Hello there everyone, it is me Shadow Leon 659 once again. And so sorry about the lack of content for the last few days if not weeks, because I've been very busy with my life and whatnot. I know that since last year I had been promising to do that Real Adventures of Jonny Quest review, and I am finally going to do it right now. So you ask, what is the Real Adventures of Jonny Quest? It dates all the way back to the 1960s and whatnot, in where, should I say, Hanna-Barbera Productions, yes, the same Hanna-Barbera who made the Flintstones and whatnot, came up with the idea of an action cartoon and everything back in the 60s and all that stuff. Despite only lasting a season and 26 episodes, Jonny Quest proved itself to be a big hit and a cultural phenomenon and everything, setting the bar for what future action cartoons would be like and whatnot. Then of course we got another Jonny Quest cartoon that came in the 1980s and whatnot, and fans don't really like to talk about that show, and I haven't heard many good things of it because that show from the 80s mainly sucks and whatnot. So anyway, today's subject of matter is the Real Adventures of Jonny Quest. So of course this show had pretty much a troubled production and whatnot, and I'm gonna talk about the two seasons and how they vary in quality and all that stuff. Because as you can see, both seasons were made by two different teams and everything. So what is the plot for this show about? So the plot for this show centers around should I say, Jonny, Haji, Jesse Bannon, and of course Dr. Quest and Race Bannon, should I say, going around the world on adventures and whatnot, fighting bad guys and everything and all that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much the show. That's pretty much, should I say, the story for the show and whatnot. We have plenty of... So let's talk about our main characters and whatnot. So Jonny himself is pretty much the courageous protagonist and whatnot, who goes from being a noob and everything to, should I say, being a more proactive character and everything. So yeah, that's Jonny for you and whatnot. And Haji is practically, should I say, the brains of the trio, and the master of technology and everything, acting as Dr. Quest's assistant and sort of like an older brother figure for Jonny and everything. And then of course we have Jesse Bannon and all that stuff. But unfortunately for Jesse Bannon, she suffers from a severe case of character regression and everything. Throughout the majority of season 1, it's like she is like this badass character, take no prisoners and whatnot. But then by the time we get to season 2, unfortunately, should I say, Jesse Bannon sadly suffers from a severe case of badass decay. I know what the writers were trying to do. They were trying to raise the stakes and up the ante by making her mostly a damsel in distress and all that stuff who needs to be rescued by Jonny and everything. And I know the bad guys have gotten more dangerous and the stakes have become higher, but did you really need to nerf her character down? And then of course we have Race Bannon, who pretty much serves as Dr. Quest's bodyguard and all that stuff. And sort of like, should I say, a father figure, and should I say, a great role model towards Jonny and everything, and is also the father of Jesse Bannon and all that stuff. And then we have Dr. Quest. We also have Dr. Quest, who is Jonny's scientist father and everything, who also serves as a good role model to his son and whatnot. So anyway, those were the main characters and whatnot. So let us talk about the villains. And when it comes to talking about the villains in this show, I'm only going to talk about the major ones, because the show had plenty of one-time villains who didn't last more than an episode and whatnot. You have, should I say, Jeremiah Sir, the egotistical scientist who often antagonizes the Quest family and everything, voiced by everyone's Frank Welker and all that stuff. I really do love this villain and everything, making a handicapped villain and all that stuff, in where he hijacks part of Quest World and always uses it as ways of, should I say, antagonizing the Quest family and everything. And it's really funny how the villain himself made Scooby-Doo of all things sound terrifying. No, actually fall into the Narm Charm category and actually made it sound menacing. Don't believe me? Just listen to this brief clip.
Oh, you've come to plead for the lives of your fathers.
How did you know about our fathers?
Every station on television's been playing that story since this morning. Do you know how many times they've interrupted Scooby-Doo? And it wasn't even one I'd seen yet. I'm still very upset.
That's pretty funny and kinda menacing at the same time. Who is followed by his two loyal henchmen who will do anything to stop the Quest family and all that stuff. And then of course we later have Ezekiel Rage, who is pretty much the fallen hero and whatnot, who was once a good man, and during a botched mission, and where, should I say, the government pretty much gave up on him and all that stuff. The government pretty much gave up on him and all that stuff, leaving him to die, and as a result losing his family and everything, causing him to, should I say, go insane, and wanting to wish death upon the world and everything for what they did to him and whatnot. He is pretty much, sure, we are not supposed to root for him and whatnot, but you can't help but feel sorry for him after all the crap he had gone through and losing his family and whatnot. So anyway, and then we also have, should I say, the Quest's longtime nemesis, Dr. Zin. And I really do love how Dr. Zin is, who is pretty much the magnificent bastard and all that stuff, always finding ways of trying to destroy the Quest and find ways of taking over the world and all that stuff. I mean, but of course, let us also talk about the two seasons and the different qualities. Season 1 went for a more like realistic tone and all that stuff. The Quest was still going on adventures and whatnot and everything, and where it kind of felt more realistic and all that stuff. But then when we eventually get to Season 2, it's like the showrunner of Season 2 wanted it to be to feel more like the original Jonny Quest from the 60s and everything, but depending on which one you prefer, it's either you like the more realistic tone of Season 1 or the more, should I say, how can I put it? The more adventure tone from the 60s show that this show was trying to emulate and whatnot. And of course, let us also talk about the animation. The animation in this show is fan-freaking-tastic and a huge step up from a majority of Hanna-Barbera's output. Because you of course already know that Hanna-Barbera cartoons were known for their limited animation, all that stuff. Well, let me tell you this. This is easily one of their better animated cartoons, and as the show progresses, the animation gets immensely better and whatnot. But if I'm being brutally honest, Season 2 was easily the best animated season and everything. In fact, it was done by Moog Animation Studio, the same animation studio who did the animation for SWAT Cats and the four original direct-to-video Scooby-Doo movies. So, of course, you know by now that, should I say, this show... Excuse me 1 minute. That this show has plenty of fantastic and solid episodes and whatnot. We even have an episode that was a love letter to Terminator 2. We even have the episode Eclipse, which originally started off as an unmade episode of SWAT Cats, the Radical Squadron and everything, which also became Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island and whatnot, because, you know, these were the same people who would later go on to work on Zombie Island and whatnot. So of course, should I say, And we even have an episode that involved a werewolf, which was pretty emotional and heartbreaking. The Ezekiel Rage episodes are easily some of the best and whatnot. And heck, I really do love, and of course let us also talk about the show and everything. Yes, I know it was a pretty common trend in the 90s and 2000s for shows to, follow the rules of the censors and whatnot by we cannot show on-screen deaths and everything. Yes, deaths could be referenced and all that stuff and whatnot, but this show thankfully averts that trope and everything. It is one of those shows that took many risks and whatnot. By risks, I mean like we had plenty of on-screen deaths in plenty of episodes and whatnot. You remember me saying that the show had plenty of one-time villains and everything. All those one-time villains did not last more than an episode. It's simply because, should I say, it's simply because of all the graphic violence that this show portrays and everything. And I'm so glad that this show didn't sugarcoat death and all that stuff. Although it would kind of scar kids and whatnot, but I don't mind the show taking risks and whatnot and actually showing people die and everything. And let us talk about the music. The iconic Jonny Quest theme was remixed for this show and whatnot. The soundtrack is absolutely amazing for what it is. I would even consider this one of the best soundtracks of an animated movie ever made. So, and also let us talk about the voice cast. It's really funny how we had two different sets of voice cast members and everything. Season 1 was where most of the characters were voiced by, should I say, different people and all that stuff. But then when we get to Season 2, they replaced the old voice cast with a new one and everything. And regardless of whichever season you watch, I think that both voice casts actually do an amazing job and everything. Rob Paulsen does a fantastic performance as Haji and his Indian accent sounds authentic. Quinton Flynn is also great in the role of, should I say, Jonny Quest himself. John Delancey of Star Trek fame is also great as Dr. Quest and everything. It's kind of really funny how Robert Patrick, yes, the T-1000 himself, voices Race Bannon in the first season of Jonny Quest and everything. And then of course in season 2 he was replaced by a different guy and all that stuff. And I did like Jennifer Hale's fantastic performance as Jessie Bannon and whatnot. So anyway, that is the Real Adventures of Jonny Quest and everything. A pretty solid and criminally underrated show. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rate the Real Adventures of Jonny Quest, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I highly recommend it. Go check it out if you are a fan of Jonny Quest and Hanna-Barbera's content. So what did you guys think of the Real Adventures of Jonny Quest? Let me know in the comment section down below, and thanks for watching as always. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. Shadow Leon 659 signing out.